In the northern reaches of the old continent, where the mountains tore the sky with jagged peaks, stood Ironhold Fortress, a citadel carved into the spine of the world. Its walls were built from black basalt, quarried from the deep heart of the mountains, said to have been forged with blood and magic in the age before kings. For 5 centuries, it had been the shield of the realm, repelling every invader that dared test its might. Legends claimed that the first stone of Ironhold was laid by King Tharos the Unyielding, who swore upon his sword that no enemy would ever pass its gates while his bloodline endured. Though Tharos was long gone, the vow still echoed in the wind. Its current commander, General Aldric Varrow, was not born to nobility. He was the son of a blacksmith, his hands once calloused from hammer and tongs rather than sword hilt and shield. His rise through the ranks had been carved by fire, grit, and the weight of steel. Among soldiers, he was called the Anvil, for he could take any blow, no matter how crushing, and still stand firm. One winter night, when the moon was more than a pale sliver, a lone scout stumbled through the fortress gates. His armor was shredded, and blood crusted his face. His breath came in shallow gasps, eyes wide with terror. "They're coming," he rasped. Before collapsing into the snowdot from the eastern valley, an army approached, a sea of crimson armor moving like a living tide. Their banners bore the black serpent, its coiled form promising death and conquest. At their head rode Lord Malthor, a warlord whose name was whispered like a curse in the taverns of distant lands. It was said that no city had ever withstood his siege, and that he burned each one as an offering to the gods of war. Inside Ironhold's great hall, Aldric gathered his captains, men and women who had fought beside him through countless campaigns. The firelight flickered across maps scattered on the oak table. "We are the last wall," Aldric told them, his voice steady. "If we fall, the kingdom burns. Hold the gates, hold the walls, no matter the cost." The captains nodded grimly. Outside, snow fell thicker, cloaking the fortress in white. As if preparing it for burial, the war drums began at dusk, low and steady, like the heartbeat of some monstrous beast. By nightfall, the eastern horizon glowed with torchlight. The enemy had arrived. Part 2. Fire in the snow at first light. The siege began. Arrows hissed through the air, 1,000 black shadows against the pale dawn. Stones from siege engines slammed into the walls, shaking the fortress to its bones. The serpent banners advanced, rippling in the wind. Aldric stood atop the highest wall, shouting orders. Archers loosed their shafts in deadly volleys. Boiling oil was poured from the battlements, and the screams below rose like a dark choir. Hours turned days. Snow turned to slush, then to mud, then to blood. Men and women fought until their arms trembled from exhaustion. Every dawn brought another assault. Every night they counted the dead. On the 4th day, a lone rider approached under a black flag of parley. The gates opened just enough for him to be heard. His voice was sharp and mocking. "Surrender Ironhold," he sneered, "and you may. Live to see another spring. Resist, and every man, woman, and child within these walls will be fed to the flames." Aldric's reply was silent but clear. He took the serpent banner from the envoy's hand and hurled it from the wall into the snow. When the rider returned to Malthor's camp empty-handed, the warlord's fury was like a storm. Siege towers rolled forward, great wooden beasts clad in iron. Ladders clawed at the walls. Fire arrows rained from the sky, their flames reflected in the ice. For 7 more days, the siege raged. Inside Ironhold, rations ran thin. The wounded lay on straw beds in the lower halls, the scent of blood and smoke heavy in the air. Fear whispered in the corridors. What if the fortress fell? On the 12th day, Malthor ordered the battering. Ram of Carthus brought forth, a monstrous log bound with black steel, its head carved into a snarling beast. Every strike against the gates echoed through the fortress like thunder, yet Aldric still stood. Armor dented, face streaked with soot, he moved from wall to wall, rallying his soldiers. Not one step back. He roared, "This is Ironhold. We do not break." The turning of the tide on the 15th day, a storm unlike any seen in decades, swept down from the mountains. Snow fell so thick that neither side could see 10 paces ahead. The wind howled like 1,000 lost souls. In the chaos, Aldric ordered a sudden counterattack, a sally through the western gate, striking at Malthor's supply lines. The strike was brutal and swift. The defenders burned the enemy's food stores and cut down their siege engines before, retreating behind the walls. When the storm cleared, Malthor found his army starving and his war machines in ruin. His men, frozen and weary, began to whisper of omens and curses. By dawn on the 20th day, the crimson tide withdrew. Not in defeat, but in grim recognition. Ironhold would cost them too much. Epilogue shadows still Ironhold stood, victorious, its black walls unbroken. But Aldric knew this was not the end. Spies reported that Malthor had not returned to his homeland. He had vanished into the mountains. And with him, the black serpent banner was seen once more, moving toward the ancient ruins of Kelvrin, a place spoken of in fearful tones, where old power slept. The war was over. For now,